go back into session. Really appreciate everybody. It is so fun to have their wonderful energy in our meetings. Next, we will go to our second presentation from the Del Mar Fairgrounds. It's their 2050 update. The presentation will be presented by Zach McQuarrie, Director of Public Affairs with Southwest Strategies Group. He is here to provide us with an update on the long-term planning efforts and vision for the future of the fairgrounds. Over to you.
Is that coming through? There we go. Thank you all for having me tonight. It's going to be sometimes to follow, but I'm excited to talk to you today. Got it. My name is Zach McQuarrie. I'm with Southwest Strategies. I'm representing the 22nd District Agricultural Association, which is the state institution that owns and operates the Del Mar Fairgrounds. So we just wanted to provide an overview real quickly of the 22nd DAA and the fairgrounds. I'm sure everyone's familiar with the property up in Del Mar with the racetrack where the fair is every year. 22nd DAA also operates two other parcels. One is just east of Jimmy Durante Boulevard, which is where the Surf and Turf Park is. And then a little further east, just south of Villa de la Valle, is the Horse Park. Collectively, this is 324 acres. And as you can kind of see, it's all surrounded by environmentally sensitive land. Something the district takes very seriously, and we'll get into a little bit more of that later. The district is governed by a 9-member board of directors, all appointed by the governor. And it's important to note that they do not receive taxpayer dollars. It's all self-funded through revenue generated by events. So the Del Mar Fairgrounds is best known for these three marquee events. Of course, the annual San Diego County Fair, which is coming up soon here. Horse racing, which happens later on in the summer. And then the Sound at Surfside, which is a relatively new concert venue on the property that brings in different types of performances. Collectively, these events plus the other seasonal events that the fairgrounds host brings around $682 million in economic impact to the region. And I'll also note that the fairgrounds is home to Wade Volleyball, which is the #1 volleyball club in California. So Fairgrounds 2050, that's what we're here to talk about today. This is the branding that the Del Mar Fairgrounds is giving to their master site planning process. Right now, they're in the process of doing public outreach to develop eventually a new master site plan. This is a really special and unique piece of property. It serves the entire region. And so they want to make sure that as we plan for the future, we're planning for those future generations of San Diegans and meeting their needs. The board of directors, when launching this effort, Fairgrounds 2050, wanted to make sure that the master site plan upheld the district's their principles and core values. So they passed a set of guiding principles: community focus, purposeful planning, accessibility, environmental stewardship, and economic impact. These are the stakes in the ground that are going to guide the master site planning process. So whatever shape and form that the property takes in the future through this, they're going to uphold these, because this is what the district is about serving the public good. I'm going to jump to the next slide. So this here we affectionately refer to as our Candyland board map. Really what it is guiding our public outreach that we're going to be conducting throughout the year. Right now we're in the green zone here, which is a little tough to see, but you have it in front of you. This is our listening session. This is comprised of a few strategies. And I mentioned earlier this is a regional asset. Everyone comes to San Diego County Fair. Everyone benefits from the different services and events that they bring. In times of crisis, it's used as an emergency gathering center. This is a regional asset. So we want to make sure that we're touching every corner of the county in our public outreach as we develop this master site. We're presenting to city councils all around the region to share this update, to any input you all have. We are planning regional workshops, which we're going to do in every corner of the county. We may be reaching out at a later time to ask for help promoting those. We've formed a technical advisory coalition. This is a group of technical experts who are helping us identify the key questions we will be exploring, as well as what the constraints are. And we're going to be launching a countywide survey here soon, so we can get that quantitative, statistically significant input on what people view the property and what its best use could be for the future. Really, this is all going to come together into a visioning report that the board of directors is going to develop and endorse. And what that visioning report is going to do is take all that wonderful input we've received from around the region, and it's going to establish some design guidelines for an international design competition. We're hoping next year at some point we're able to launch that competition, bring the best and brightest minds from around the world to help really start develop that master site plan and start planning out for the the future of the fairgrounds. Now, that's just the beginning process. Of course, we're going to have to go through CEQA and environmental reviews. After we do all these wonderful things, we'll then go through another round of public outreach to make sure that we're checking all the boxes and getting all the input so that we're really getting the output. I mentioned regional public workshops. Plan on doing this later this year. Again, we're going to be in every corner of the county. These are going to be aligned with the supervisorial districts. So there'll be one in this corner of town, there'll be in elsewhere. These are going to be opportunities for the public to come in, to meet with members of the district, their technical staff, as well as their leadership, and ask questions, share input, and really help formulate the vision of where we want this property to go. Jump to the next slide. Wrapping up here, but I would be remiss to not mention the upcoming 2025 San Diego County Fair. This is starting June 11th, so it's right around the corner. This summer's theme is Summer Pet-tacular, like spectacular. That doesn't mean you can bring your pets to the fair, but it's a really exciting partnership with the Humane Society, and there's going to be opportunities to support that organization as well as all the things we know and love about the fair. Do you want to jump to the next slide? There are a number of new things this year that folks can look forward to at the fair. There are going to be season passes available, which gives you access to all 20 days of the fair. There's 20 nights of concerts with acts like Los Tigres del Norte, Foreigner, the Yayayas. Of course, there's going to be all the rides and games that we know and love. And just recently, they unveiled some of the food offerings. So stay tuned. We'd love to see you down there. If you want to learn more, you can visit sdfair.com. And if you want to jump to the final slide, if you want to provide any feedback or learn more about the master site planning process, you can visit delmarfairgrounds.com/2050, where there's a QR code there. We have a survey. We're asking folks to share ideas. And of course, we're going to continue. I know we have a full agenda today, so I wanted to keep it short and sweet. That's all I have. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them. Otherwise, I'll be hanging out if any members of the public like more info.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming, Zach. Do we have any questions for Zach? Jim?
Oh yeah, there'll be more now.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming and presenting this to us. Hopefully we'll get a lot of participation from the Lemon Grove people because, as you said, it is a regional asset. We're appreciative of what the programming that you bring there and that it's available to everyone. I will just say some of our priorities for Lemon Grove is making sure that we have easy transportation access to the fairgrounds. It often gets really congested through that corridor, and there's no real clear path on public transportation other than taking your car, parking, and then getting over there. So just encouraging public options to access there. And then I know that there's significant planning going on regarding the Losan trail, railroad trails through there. And so we remind the priorities of mine, please reach out to the Sandbank board members to share this same insight and let them know for the conversation too as well. All right, thank you so much. Appreciate you coming out. Next, we will have general public comment. During the general public comment portion of this meeting, the public may express their concerns about items not pertaining to the agenda. According to state law, we are not allowed to respond to any comments expressed by the public. Sometimes that is a very frustrating process because we would like to have dialogue with you about these issues that you care so much to present. If you want us to follow up with you or have a staff member follow up with you, please indicate that when you come up or put it on your speaker slip and we will make sure that we're continuing to follow up with you on those items. All remarks should be addressed to the city council as a body and not to any individual member, and each person will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak. When speaking, please observe the light. There will be a green, a yellow light, and a red light at the time we're at the podium. but it indicates that it's time for the next person to speak. So now we will turn to public comment. First, we have Kathy Olson.
I didn't want to be first. I'm talking about a stop sign on San Miguel. The section of San Miguel Avenue between Massachusetts and Federal Avenue has a public elementary school and a large church. As a result, there's a lot of traffic along that section of the street, making the blind corner at the top of the hill on San Miguel, just past Jenia's place, very hazardous. This creates a traffic hazard not only for traffic entering and leaving San Miguel Avenue from 69th Street, but also for pedestrians. I live on 69th Street between San Miguel and Mount Vernon Street. One of the neighbors on my street said that as they were leaving 69th Street making a left-hand turn, they were hit by another vehicle. The resident, her son and daughter went to the hospital, and her son had a bleeding head injury that required stitches. Another resident said that while she's never witnessed an accident or been involved in one, there are many times she has almost been in an accident when taking her son to school in the morning. And very tragically, as reported in the newspaper on May 3rd, 2019, 13-year-old Trevon was crossing San Miguel Avenue just west of the elementary school when he was struck and killed by a car. I don't think anyone wants another death on San Miguel Avenue. In my opinion, a stop sign would be the most effective way to slow down eastbound traffic before the blind corner and before the elementary school and church. I'd be very grateful if a stop sign was placed on the eastbound side of San Miguel Avenue, just past Dania intersection and before 69th Street.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Dale Olson.
I was all set to dazzle you with my presentation. I had some photos, but I didn't realize Joel didn't have time to put them in the presentation. So I'm going to have to walk you through these. Picture's worth 1,000 words, so I got 6,000 words extra I should be allocated. Okay, first slide. I'm looking west on 69th Street as I approach San Miguel, and I see a blind corner right up there, about 100, maybe 150 feet away. So if I'm turning left, I take my life in my own hands. If I'm turning right, I better be ready to hit the accelerator real quick and get out of there. Since 1990, my wife and I have enjoyed living in Lemon Grove on the private drive, 69th Street. However, it is amazing that we have survived this long without having a traffic accident coming from 69th onto San Miguel Avenue. Others have not been so lucky. Every time I come to San Miguel Avenue, I see a view similar to this. Next slide, please. Notice the line intersection. Now, this second slide, this is a view of a car approaching from the west side of San Miguel coming east. Again, notice the blind corner. Just beyond where you can see in this picture on the right is 69th Street. There's no way ahead of time to know if a car's entering 69th Street. Slide 3, please. Okay, this is where we propose a stop sign. On the eastbound portion of the intersection of San Miguel and Chania Place. Stopped here in the picture, a driver could see any traffic activity on 69th Street at this intersection. Okay, for this reason, I encourage placing a stop sign at this location, this slide, placing one on the westbound side of San Miguel and this location at Chania Place. On the westbound traffic, I don't care if you put a stop sign or not. I don't think that is a traffic hazard. Slide 4, please. This is the intersection down at MacArthur Avenue. This is where the city has proposed putting a roundabout. Personally, I hate roundabouts. I think if you look in this picture, you can see a triangle painted on the asphalt. If we put let me see what the proper word is for it. Anyway, I think it's a medium, a triangular medium, so that the traffic they have to go around the median to turn right or to turn But if you did this instead of the roundabout, you'd save enough money to not only put in our stop sign on Chania Place, but you would also be able to pave San Miguel and Mount Vernon. I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed my slides.
Yeah. You can also send us slides as public comments or email addresses as well.
Well, I'll probably be back in 2 weeks so I can get a real presentation. I do have some petitions. In fact, if everybody on 69th that's here supporting the stop sign could let people know, and hopefully you're gonna talk about it, but there is a.
Yeah, we'll have you just deliver them to the city clerk. Perfect.
You have the stop sign put in.
Thank you so much. Next, we have John L. Wood.
John Elwood. We need to do something about the speeding on Federal. I know nobody speeds down there, it's just fast trucks. They're doing the circles again. I can't do anything about it. I'm kind of used to it. Speeding on Central. Something has to be done about that. I know you've heard me before about speeding on Central. Something has to be done. People parking in the street. Half of the vehicle is in the dirt, which isn't much, and then the other half is in the street. That's really bad there. As you know, my car got hit. They moved it about a half car length, car's only 26 feet long. You know, somebody has to do something. Plus, the trees in my backyard, they're not on my property, they're on Toyota's property. I've asked you before to have them trim the trees. The one branch that came down was approximately 14 feet long and diameter was 7 inches. And that's a lot of tree, because the trees are very, 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 very expletive tall. So you don't really hear them fall. Eucalyptus usually doesn't make a noise. I was lucky. I was in the backyard, but not the far backyard. And I heard some rustling and the branch came down. Fortunately, I wasn't by the tree. I would appreciate somebody doing something about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Appreciate it. Next, we have Brenda Hammond.
Hello. First I want to read the short note that I hand carried to Sheriff Martinez today, because that's what I do. Hello, Sheriff Martinez. Let me introduce myself, Brenda Hammond. You have been with the Sheriff's Department for a while, right? So you probably know that I like to handwrite in good and bad letters to whomever is sheriff at the time. I would like to thank you for having an awesome team of deputies, male and female. They are professional yet compassionate to every need of the public. Recently, I met Sergeant, and I'm gonna blow this. What John said. The sergeant that was here last time. I can't say these names. Anyway, the sergeant at a Lemon Grove City Council meeting that I attend regularly. The council was in closed session, so he and I had a chance to talk. Sergeant was very patient and a good listener, very professional, yet quick to laugh at some of the stories I shared with him about my dealings with the sheriff's deputies over the years, which are going to go in my book I'm writing. without names, of course. Congratulations, Sheriff Martinez, and thanks for holding down the fort, Brenda Hammond. So I handwrote this, and that's what I do with every sheriff, good and bad letters, is if you walk them in and hand them to them, not directly to the sheriff, but to their, yes, sir. And I think it gets more attention because it comes from the heart and not on a computer. So let me get to, the funny thing. So these women were giving me a hard time the other night, just trying to anger me, trying to get me angry. So I ended this conversation I was having them with, by telling them to get away with a little F-bomb. The ridiculous thing is they tried to get me to fight like I was in junior high school, and then they told me that I get my way because I kiss up to the mayor. And I said, what? I don't kiss up to the mayor and I don't get my way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brenda. Pleasure to have you here. All right, next we have Stanley Brown.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name is Stanley Brown. I am the manager at Rosero Texas Skate on Lemon Grove Avenue. We've been in the business about 13 years, going on to 14. I'm just here to voice my concerns about some things that's been going on. One of those things is that during storm days in front of our shop, it tends to flood. So the owner has to go out in rain boots and rain gear. I'm pretty sure some of the community have seen them out there, raking leaves, debris, trash out of the sewage drain to keep shops from flooding around us and our own personal shop. Also, I believe that a lot of the businesses do need proper signage for people to be able to find their businesses appropriately. And then also the Lemon Grove trolley stop. I know it's been an eyesore to everybody because it hasn't been running. It used to be a spot in the community where people can go get refreshing drinks, snacks, and use the restroom before they go commute or after they commute. I just want to see something done with the community and government to bring better forward progress with these things. And I think it will be beneficial for everybody as a whole. That's all I have to say for tonight. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for coming down, Mr. Brown. Next, we have Amit Gulashik. Did I pronounce your last name right?
My name is Amit Duacia, and I'm here to respectfully urge the city of Lemon Grove council members and the mayor to expand its current ordinance and the retail sales of dogs, cats, and rabbits to include all animals sold as sex stores. Many people are unaware that such animals such as birds, reptiles, rodents, and even fish are victims of mass breeding operations. These facilities are very similar to puppy mills, which I'm sure all of you have heard about, that breed animals in large facilities under inhumane and overcrowded conditions. The animals that are bred in these facilities, including birds, guinea pigs, hamsters, lizards, and others, are often sick, stressed, and unsocialized, and sold to pet stores have prioritized profit over animal welfare. When these animals are no longer wanted or cared for properly, it's often with shelters, the rescues, or local governments that bear the burden to cover the costs. By expanding the ordinance to cover all species, Lemon Grove can take a stand against this to promote adoption and responsible rescue. There's also a financial benefit to this. Encouraging adoption over retail sales means fewer animals end up in our shelters, reducing costs of care, housing, and euthanasia. It also increases adoption for local shelters and rescue groups and including our entire community. Other cities across the country have already taken steps to enact this law. There's a couple cities in California that are going through the process as well. By following the lead of the cities, Lemon Grove can position itself as a leader in humane, responsible animal policy. Thank you for your time, and I hope you will consider this step.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Mason Melito.
Hello, council members. My name is Mason Lito, and I'm a Lemon Grove constituent. You may remember me from the last time I spoke here or through communications via email. And I'm here tonight to also ask for your support in expanding our city's retail pet sales ban to cover all animals and not just dogs, cats, and rabbits, but also birds, reptiles, and small animals that are commonly sold in stores. More importantly, I'm here to request a meeting with each of you to discuss this issue in more detail. I've reached out and really do appreciate those who have already responded. And for anyone who I haven't connected with yet, I really hope that we can schedule a time soon. And this is not just a policy issue that I'm talking about. This is a problem happening right here in our own city of Lemon Grove. One pet store in our city in particular has had 7 animal control complaints since 2023. And I visited recently and saw animals in filthy enclosures. There were empty water bowls, overcrowded cages, and others have even seen deceased animals left in plain sight in this store. This kind of neglect is unacceptable and is completely preventable. And many of the animals sold in stores like this come from large-scale breeding mills, which prioritize profit over animal care. And these animals are often sick, stressed, and under-socialized, and oftentimes when new owners realize how much care these animals actually require, they end up stranded to shelters, or worse, abandoned outdoors. Expanding the sales ban would reduce the number of animals entering the shelter system, would protect our local ecosystem from non-native species, and also take a stand against inhumane breeding operations. Other cities, including West Hollywood, Berkeley, and Del Mar, have already taken this step, and cities such as Cambridge, Massachusetts have even already passed ordinances similar to this one. Local businesses like Petco and San Diego Animal Supply can still thrive without selling these animals as well. They already have the option to partner with rescues, and that is the kind of responsible model we should be encouraging. And I would like to thank you all for your time, your service, and your consideration, and I look forward to meeting with each of you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Sue Mayberry.
Evening, Mayor, members of the employees, James Sumiduri. I'm a member of the crisis team on the Trauma Intervention Program in San Diego, step short. I'm here tonight representing everyone within our organization to thank all of you for your continued support in the city of Lemon Grove. When we are dispatched by first responders, fit volunteers around the city, and about the notes. They provide practical and emotional support during these critical first hours of a traumatic event happening to one person across a great deal. Because of your support and the support of first responders, we have responded to 13 calls for service by the sheriff station here in Lemon Grove and additional calls by Hawkins Fire.
Mayberry, can I get you to lift the microphone just a little? Sure.
Thank you. Across the East County, in the area that I volunteer, in 2024, we responded to 369 requests for service, and in that we assisted 1,246 members and supported 2,482 first responders. This allows them to get back in service quicker because they know that the people we care about are in the hands of services. Thank you again on behalf of TIP.
Thank you so much, and for the service you bring to our community. Thank you. Next, we have Amelia Simon.
Hello, my name is Amelia Simon. I'm a resident of Lemon Grove for the past 10 years. Mayor, council members, and city staff, I wanted to share the following State of California grant opportunity that specifically names the city of Lemon Grove as one of the eligible cities for up to $2 million over 3 years, starting in January of 2026, for the California Violence Intervention Program, CALVIP. This grant can include violence intervention support for law enforcement and prevention activities such as parks and recreation. I have a list of past grantees, all of it's from the state, starting in June 2018, that shows examples of what other small cities have done with their CALVIP grant application. The grant is due August of 2025, so I strongly encourage City Council to please put it on the next City Council agenda to authorize approving an application for this, for the CALVIP grant. No one else can apply for you. It does have to be the city of Lemon Grove, so it can't be the sheriff's department, it can't be the county. Really, it has to be the city that is authorized for up to $2 million under the category of small and medium cities. So you won't be applying in competition with the city of San Diego or Los Angeles. You have a special category just for small and medium cities. So actually, I had an intern, a lovely intern, who put together this list. And she highlighted programs that include trauma and resilience in blue, faith-based in yellow, and other examples from the city of San Diego and Chula Vista focused programs in green. And so I believe I've emailed this to several of the city staff, including Lydia Romero and some other city council members, but I can also present this tonight and resend it as well. And I would love to have a meeting with city staff if possible. And just very, very quickly, I wanted to give you some of the numbers that have received the grant and paid for some of their parks and rec. So the city of Duarte on page 5 received $498 million. City of Oxnard received $500,000 on page 6. City of Salinas also received $500,000 on page 6. Santa Clara County Catholic Charities received funding for their parks and recs, local museums and beaches. And then City of Los Angeles, Parks and Recreation in 4 specific neighborhoods that are disproportionately impacted by violence. This is a wonderful opportunity, so please do not leave $2 million on the table, especially when the state of California specifically names the city of Lemon Grove. This is not federal funds, it's state of California funds for the next 3 years, starting in January of 2026 through December of 2028.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna have our city manager address the status of an application. I actually am gonna put her towards the end of it, and we'll continue with public comment. Next, we have Ken King.
Good afternoon. Again, in regards to the tiny shacks on Short Street, we still have not heard anything on what's going on from the city of Lemon Grove and what our thoughts are on it, either yes or no. We only heard from one person who has told everyone in the news media that everyone's for it, and we found out that not everyone is for it. So we need the county to know exactly how Lemon Grove feels about the tiny shacks. Found out that the county also has 70 acres of land out in El Cajon. They just got $4 million for safe parking to throw towards this Third Street project. They need to throw that $4 million towards the 70 acres of vacant land that's been there for 20 years and do a tiny home project there, and instead of trying to make Lemon Grove or Spring Valley as well. We need Lemon Grove to step it up.
Next, we have Craig Morris.
Council, Mayor,
the illegal fireworks going off in the city of Liberty Grove. With the 4th of July fast approaching, maybe we can start doing some signage, city signs, banners. Let's curb this a little bit. It's getting out of control. I'll call it the Wild Wild West. If anybody was around on New Year's, it was crazy. I've never seen it that bad. And let's do something. Let's let the citizens of Living Grove know it's illegal to light off fireworks in the city limits. We're gonna have a fire, someone's gonna get hurt. We got dogs that are afraid of them. We got little ones that can be afraid of them. Let's do some signage. Let's start. And then maybe we do more patrols and start finding these people who light them off and find them. What we gotta do. That's it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Mr. Morris. Next, we have Erin Balfour.
Hi. I wrote some notes, but I'm fine just filming it. I'm Erin Belfer. I live on Golden Avenue off of Mount Vernon. And I'm here for my first meeting since the election. I came to the meeting last week with Izzy and all of you guys and watched as you listened as Izzy and Lydia Romero explained answers to your questions, and it just made me feel really proud to have a new council, to have those of you who are new joining people who've already been here, and really working hard to understand the gravity of the jobs that you have been elected to do. I love Lemon Grove. I moved here 3 years ago from the college area where I lived for 20 years. I love it here because it's diverse, and I mean that in all the ways that it's diverse. And we also are facing huge problems. I sometimes call us the bad news bears of San Diego. And we know how that turned out, they won. So the reason I'm here is because the problems we're facing are huge. They're coming from like big federal, like all the way trickle down. And our federal government is not coming to save us. We can only save us. We have community members at risk, as we saw ICE raids in South Park last week. That kind of stuff will impact our families, our communities, our children, all those beautiful babies that were just here tonight getting their awards, who got to see how civic engagement works. It's really, really important that we protect one another. And I think it's really important that we not look at purity tests. We're not all gonna always agree on things, but finding creative ways to make Lemon Grove be the community that we all want it to be, that it could be. I really wanna urge you guys to work together and to please, please, please shut out those few voices that are loud and extremist and obstructionist and made it really unpleasant to come to meetings in the past. This is precious, this is all we have. And I really just want to say, on behalf of myself and my family and my neighbors, when I talk to my neighbors, they feel the same way. And I love seeing you, Steve, and you, Jessica, and I think there was one more person at the Lemon Grove coffee shop a couple weeks ago, and you were having a community gathering where we could ask questions, and you were out in public, and I really appreciate that. So please work for us. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And next we have Manola Clark Manson.
Good evening. I'm really excited at how many people came up here today. It's nice to see so many of our community come up and tell us, tell us the community, and tell you, the city council, what's going on and what they're feeling, so that you hear all the voices. I've talked a number of times about hearing the less heard voices or the small voices, and I think we're beginning to hear them, so thank you. I'm here to talk about two things that are happening this month. I was really excited to see on Instagram, so I'm assuming it's on Facebook, Pride Month being advertised or acknowledged on Lemon Grove site. I am wondering if we are going to have pride flag flying this year and when that might go up. I'm also wondering about Juneteenth. I'm hoping that people, the city staff are off. I don't remember what the end discussion was, but I wanna put forth that they should be. But also, is a flag going on? And is there going to be a ceremony? I know if they're off on Juneteenth, that can't happen on Juneteenth, so is it happening the day before? What are you doing? And those types of things should be widely talked about, so we know whether we're not doing it or we're doing it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Vincent, or Clark Vincent. Next, we will, turn it over to city staff to address some of the issues that were brought up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We are on the San Miguel, Massachusetts stop sign. We can definitely put that on our warrant analysis for fiscal year 25-26. As you all know, we have to do an analysis of each intersection before we place a stop sign there, so we can definitely put that on our analysis to take a look at. Some of the council, you may remember, we did a warrant analysis this last year. For this fiscal year, we did 5 different locations, and 2 of the 5 ended up with stop signs. We will make sure code is notified about the trees, Mr. Wood. The trolley stop, so the former market that was on the trolley stop is now an MTS security building. So it is being utilized and used. I think a couple of the council members had a tour. So MTS security is in that building, instead of a smoke shop. For that. One of the speakers talked about a local ordinance preventing the sales of dogs and cats. We don't, I was quickly looking at a municipal code, we don't have a local ordinance, that's a statewide ordinance. So it's not a local ordinance, it's a statewide law to prevent, the selling of dogs and cats from the public parks. And then on the Cal VIP grant, staff has been working with the sheriff's department on that, so it's already in the works, we already will apply, and it will has to come to the city council for a blessing, so it will be done way before the August deadline. So that's already in the works, it's already been done. And then regarding the flag, as the council remembers, all of you were here, a flag policy was adopted last year by the city council. And in that flag policy, the city council has to request that a commemorative flag be flown, and the city council has to vote in an open meeting to have that commemorative flag flown. So if the city council would like to see both the pride flag and the Juneteenth flag on the respective days, we can certainly bring an item to the next city council meeting, for the council to vote, and I can get that item on consent. If I'm getting head nods if that's something people want to see. I see 2, that's all I need, and I'll bring it forward for the 17th.
Thank you for those clarifications. I don't have any other speaker slips. So that will close our public comment section of the agenda. I did want to recognize Robin Todd, who is a representative from Assemblymember LaShaye Sharp Collins, and we're grateful that the Assembly member is sending folks down. Would you like to give an update or speak for just a little bit? Okay. It's wonderful that we have our state assembly members like participating in our community activities and our council meetings to take back what our concerns are up to our assembly members. So thank you so much for being here. You're welcome. Next, we have the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I have a motion.
Okay, thank you. Wonderful. Mr. Clerk, will you be able to call the roll? He's not feeling very good, so we'll have this in
Madam Mayor, motion has been made to approve the consent calendar by Councilmember Altamirano, seconded by Councilmember Peridia. I will now do the roll call vote. Councilmember Altamirano. Aye. Councilmember Fayette.
Aye.
Councilmember Peridia. Aye. Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza. Aye. Mayor Snow.
Aye.
Madam Mayor, the motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Next, we have the public hearing section. It's item number 2 on the agenda. It's a resolution establishing assessments for the Wildflower Landscape Maintenance Assessment District 97-1 to be collected on the San Diego County Property Tax Roll for fiscal year 2025-2026. City clerk, have all notices required by law been given, and if the complete file of the exhibits, correspondence, and other documents have been provided?
Mayor Snow, all notices, documents, and corresponding exhibits have been provided as required by law.
Okay, and now I'll turn it over to City Attorney Kristen Steinke to ask council if there's any disclosures of conflict of interest related to this item.
Thank you so much. I'll just go count line by one. Councilmember Altamirano, do you have any conflicts or ex parte communications to disclose? Councilmember Fayai, any conflicts or ex parte communications?
No.
Councilmember Heredia, any conflicts or disclosures?
No.
And Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza? And Mayor Snow?
I have none.
Thank you so much.
Next, I'll introduce our Public Works Director, Izzy Murvia, to present the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. This evening's public hearing item is the consideration to establish the annual assessments for the Wildflower Landscape Maintenance Assessment District 97-1, mouthful. I'm going to refer to it as LMAD from here on out, which is to be collected on the San Diego County Property Tax Roll for fiscal year 2025-26. You may recall, on May 20th, 2025, the City Council adopted resolution number 2025-4103, declaring its intention to levy and collect assessments and setting a public hearing for tonight to consider adoption of these assessments. Next slide. I'm sorry, stay in this background slide. LMAD 97-1 was created in September of 1997 in accordance with the Landscaping and Lighting Act of 1972. The district includes 46 properties located on Golden Lake Road, Blue Lake Court, Long Lake Court, and Green Lake Court. The development was required to annex into a landscape maintenance district as a condition of the development process. Next slide. The Landscape Maintenance Assessment District essentially covers the landscaping areas that are noted in red. In essence, they are right-of-way landscape areas along Golden Lake Road, as well as a fire lane road that connects Gold Lake Road to San Miguel, Mount Vernon. San Miguel, excuse me. The landscape maintenance areas include ground cover, shrubs, trees, and irrigation. Next slide. When LMAD 97-1 was formed, an annual inflator was approved to be included as part of the approved annual assessments of 3% for the change in the consumer price index. Assessments are maxed and cannot exceed $335 per year. The fiscal year 2025-2026 assessment rate is proposed to increase from the fiscal year 24-25 assessment rate by 3.82%. Which in essence is going from $253.40 to $263.08 per equivalent benefit unit, or also known as a single-family home. Revenues collected from the district are derived solely from assessments, which would amount to $12,101.68 with the proposed assessment rate. Assessments are collected through the San Diego County Property Tax Roll, as previously mentioned. The funds collected are dispersed and only used for services and operations of this maintenance district. Next slide. As alluded to, expenditures for the district include landscape maintenance and repairs, including the landscape areas that was highlighted in the previous slide. Again, this area mostly includes shrubs, ground cover, approximately 11 to 15 trees, and hardscape areas. The district also includes utilities, so the district pays for its own water and power. Power meaning electric usage for the irrigation controller that waters the right-of-way areas. Capital improvements, historically there hasn't been any because the district itself does not collect enough revenue to provide for any capital improvements in the area. And then administrative costs. So there's a cost to manage the district, to put the engineer's report together that's being presented to you this evening. Those are all costs included as part of the landscape maintenance district. Additionally, as noted in the staff report, the district has a loan from the general fund to help pay for the cost of a removal of a tree that was damaged and fell in fiscal year 2019-20, and that was in the realm of $4,000, which exceeded the budget that the district had, and so the general fund made a loan to the district, and the district has been paying annually, paying the general fund back for that incident. Next slide. So with the proposed assessments, the district can continue to contract for landscape maintenance services at a bi-monthly service level, which includes irrigation inspection, removal of trash and debris, removing of shrubs, weed removal, pruning, and ideally we would like for this district to have sufficient funding for tree maintenance. The district itself, again, does not collect enough assessments to maintain the 11 to 15 pine trees that are located along Gold Lake Road, but tree maintenance is also part of the maintenance responsibilities or costs of the district. Ideally, this district, we would love to see it at a weekly service level. There's a lot of, as I mentioned, there's a lot of debris that is being produced by the pine trees that are located along Gold Lake Road. And the bi-monthly service level is just not adequate to keep up with those fallen pine needles. However, if the district can at a future point collect enough assessments, staff would love to see that service level increase to the weekly service level. If the assessments are not approved, we would have to consider going back to the service level at a monthly basis. Next slide. Staff recommends that the City Council conduct a public hearing, take public input, close the public hearing, and adopt a resolution confirming the fiscal year 25-26 engineer's report and ordering the transmission of charges to the San Diego County Auditor and Controller for collection. At this time, this concludes staff's report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Gotta do the public hearing, sorry.
Thank you so much, Mr. McNeil. So we will now open the public hearing portion of this agenda item. City Clerk, do we have any speaker slips?
Mayor Snow, we have no speaker slips for this item.
We will now move to our rounds of questions. Councilmember Alvarado, do you have any questions?
I don't have a question, just a comment. If we don't do the $10 a year assessment, then we go from 2 weeks to once a month. Is that what I understood?
Yes.
Councilmember Fayad?
No question.
Councilmember Heredia?
Yes, when was the last increase and how much was it?
Last increase was this time last year, I'm sorry, July 1st of 24, excuse me. Staff came before the council last year and recommended an increase to the assessment rates for fiscal years 25-26, and that amount was in the $9 range. So mirroring CPI.
And would you say that's consistent every year? Or are we kind of catching up still on things, because I know we do that on other.
Historically, I believe the district has approved increases in the past 5 years. Beyond that, I don't know.
Okay, and then just to clarify, so the public fully understands, this is paid by the property owner on their tax bill, property tax bill.
Correct.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza?
Does the city own the property that's being maintained?
Yes.
And what about the district? What about the fence?
So the fencing, specifically along the property lines of the homes, it's in my opinion, that belongs to the property owner. So staff reviewed the formation documents of the district, the resolutions for the formation, and it's unclear regarding the fence line, or the fences and the vegetation on the fences. And so based on my opinion and my experience with landscape maintenance districts, that would be a responsibility of the property owner.
Because I called about the fence, on that little, I walk through there quite often, and so the fence, on the east side of the walkway, it's deteriorating very badly. And it looks like the owners have maybe tried to patch it together, but it really needs to be replaced. But but you're saying, because that, I'm just concerned that would be a real expense for the district if that fencing had to be replaced. And then also, there can be quite a bit of graffiti from time to time in that area. Are we abating the graffiti?
We have in the past abated the graffiti in that area. But again, to reiterate, that fencing is the property owner.
Okay. And, one thing I've noticed, and I don't know if you can talk with the people who are doing the landscaping, sometimes if one of the shrubs dies, they just take it out and they don't replace it. And so it's just, now there's just, dirt there, and then, the sprinkler is still sprinkling, so it just becomes mud. So I don't know if it's part of their, contract to replace the plants that die or not, but, it's being maintained fairly well. I don't know if the city's gone out and actually checked the work. They are doing a pretty good job of keeping it cleaned up, but it could be a little bit better. So, I think that's, and then also with that tree, are we keeping an eye, on any other trees that because what happened is the roots were impacting someone's driveway. Are we making sure that that's not gonna happen? That's really expensive.
So yes, our street staff frequents the district, let's say at least once a month. And so part of their checks is checking the sidewalks for any lifts, particularly up on the southern side of the district where those pine trees are located. Regarding your comment about the shrubs, and we had a irrigation break a couple months back, and the repair was a couple $100. The district didn't have sufficient funding to fund the repair. And so a lot of the dying vegetation that you saw was because the water was turned off.
For my comments, I've been through that area quite often, and the pine needles do become a mess. And so I'd even be supportive of weekly maintenance, but at minimum, I think a monthly maintenance, because the pine needles go out pretty quickly there. So that's about all. It's a very narrow section. It won't be on everyone's property taxes, just to be clear. It's a very narrow section of town that has this district. And so I want to make sure that people in the community understand that there's not going to be a extra charge, an extra line item on their property taxes for this. It's very specific to that one local community. Does anyone else have any further comments or questions? Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza.
You know, the other thing I was wondering is on the corner of 69th and Mount Vernon, that's a pretty good sized lot. Have you ever thought about selling that and putting, or doing something other, I mean, cause it's just a bunch of bushes. You can't really do anything with it, with it right now.
I'd like to refer, not my lane, I will defer to the city manager.
We haven't had that the district board nor has district staff taken a look at selling that particular property. If that is something the council would like us to take a look at this year, we can certainly look at that. We'd have to go on the underlying property deed as well to ensure that that is not supposed to stay in perpetual open space. And maybe perhaps instead of selling it, we can make a small park.
And for park space, yes, because it's not part of our park space.
Can I now get a motion to close the public hearing portion?
I will motion to close the public hearing.
Have a second?
I'm second.
City Manager, do you want to call the roll?
I can certainly call the roll. There's a motion and a second to close the public hearing. 5 minutes. Councilmember Altamirano?
Aye.
Councilmember Fayette?
Aye.
Councilmember Heredia?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza?
Aye.
Mayor Snow?
Aye.
5-0 to close the public hearing.
Okay, next we'll move to council deliberations. Do any of the council members or the Mayor Pro Tem have any additional questions, comments, or further deliberations?
I just have one more question. If we were to kind of meet in the middle and go halfway, would that give us still the 2 weeks? Service?
So, if we meet in the middle, to answer your question, yes. However, a couple things to know. The district doesn't have any reserves. And the objectives, we have 2 objectives. One is to pay back the general fund loan to build the reserves. Second, collect enough revenue to move to weekly service. Right now, we can maintain the bi-weekly, but you're never gonna get to weekly without the increase.
Thank you for explaining.
Do we have a motion to adopt the resolution?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the resolution confirming the fiscal year 2025-26 engineer's report and ordering the transmission of charges to the San Diego County Auditor and Controller for collection.
City Manager, can you call the roll?
Absolutely, Madam Mayor. There's a motion by Councilmember Altamirano and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza. Councilmember, now I take the voice vote. Councilmember Altamirano?
Aye.
Councilmember Fayette?
Aye.
Councilmember Heredia? Aye. Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza? Mayor Snow? Aye. Mayor Snow, the vote was 5-0 to approve staff's recommendation.
Wonderful. Next, we'll move to our second public hearing. This is item number 3, the master fee schedule for fiscal year 2025-2026. City clerk, have all notices required by law been given? And if incomplete, filed the exhibits, correspondence, and other documents have they been provided?
Mayor Snow, all notices, documents, and corresponding exhibits have been provided as required by law.
I'll now turn it over to City Attorney Kristen Steinke to ask council if they have any disclosures or conflict of interest in on this item.
Thank you very much. As with the last item, I'll just go one by one. Please indicate if you have any conflicts of interest or ex parte communications, starting with Councilmember Altamirano. No disclosures. Thank you. Councilmember Faya, any disclosures?
None.
Councilmember Heredia?
No disclosures or ex parte.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza? And Mayor Snow? Nothing to report. Thank you.
Next, I'll introduce Stacy Tang, our Finance Director, to present the staff report.
Well, good evening, Mayor, council members, staff, and everyone else in attendance. The master fee schedule is a consolidated, next slide, please. The master fee schedule is a consolidated reference document listing all of the fees, deposits, and direct costs for the city services. It is important to review the master fee schedule annually as part of the budget process. Fees are updated to recover the cost for individual services. Once approved tonight by the city council, the proposed fees and deposits will be effective September 1st, 2025. Next slide, please. The proposed fee updates, except Appendix A, were presented at the April 15, 2025 special city council meeting. The updates include 4 primary sections of the master fee schedule. They are fire, public works engineering, community services, facilities, and Appendix A, hourly rates for the city staff. Next slide, please. So the fire fees, they were last updated 8 years ago, thus they are outdated, both within the city and compared to other municipalities and fire agencies. The current updates are to better reflect the current services provided by the fire department and the broader fire service industry, and to align more closely with operation processes of the Heartland Fire and Rescue. Next slide, please. These updates are necessary not only to account for inflation and operational costs, but ensure the fees are fair, transparent, and sustainable. They also help to ensure the city is appropriately compensated for services rendered, minimizing the burden on general fund resources and maintaining fiscal responsibility. Next slide, please. So for the public works engineering fees update, the city contracts out engineering services, including private development plan reviews. The updates are to recover increased contractor and administrative staff costs in document preparation, recordation, street dedication, legal descriptions, review and issuance of permits such as encroachment, grading, and transportation. Next slide, please. Staff propose increasing private development deposits for grading permits and development plan checks. This is to ensure a large enough deposit to maintain positive deposit balance as the project proceeds through plan checks and inspections performed by city contractors. Next slide, please. Oh, thank you. So for the community services, facilities, one proposal, is to add a refundable deposit for gazebo rentals at the Berry Street and Lemon Grove parks. That will ensure long-term care and responsible use of public amenities. The city experienced issues with renters leaving trash behind, damaging structures, and not following park guidelines. The deposit will be fully refunded when it is determined the renter has left the property in good condition. Next slide, please. So for the community services youth program, specifically the day camp program, so there will be no increase to the day camp program fee. And it was the city decision to continue subsidizing the day camp program using the general fund. Next slide, please. For the appendix A's, updating the hourly rate for the city staff, the updates reflect 3% increase for all city positions, including management staff. There's an update to 2 positions. The administrative office coordinator, replacing public works secretary position, and the office specialist 2 position replaces the licensed clerk position. Next slide, please. Staff recommends the city council to hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution approving the City of Lemon Grove master fee schedule for fiscal year 2025-26. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director Tang. We will now open the public hearing. City Clerk, do we have any speaker slips for this item?
Mayor Snow, I have no speaker slips for this item.
Okay, we'll now move to our first round of questions. Councilmember Altamirano.
We had asked staff to not raise the cap fees for this year. But I remember asking about what the school district contributes to that program, and I believe we're gonna get some numbers for that. Do you have that?
I don't have that number for you. I'll get that to you later.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Altamar, what was the question again?
We had talked about, the school district, they contribute some sort of, funds to that program,
To which
to
program?
the camp summer program?
They do not.
Not at all, so they
They do
just
not.
do the lunch.
Correct, and we have to pay for the lunch in the summer program, so we provide them a lunch. The only time that the school district provides us any funds is if we take their kids, that they're required by law to have a summer program or break program, then the school fully funds those children. And usually that is our spring camp, our winter camp, our turkey camp, when school is out, and the school doesn't have a program, an alternate program, which they do in the summer.
Normally, do the schools have a summer program?
Yes, so the schools do have a summer program, it's structured a lot differently, and those are for the kids that tend to need to stay in school a little longer. Those tend to be kids that have aides that assist them. So they're more on the special needs spectrum or have the autism spectrum, that the school district makes sure that they have care.
So no summer camp?
So no summer camp. There's usually a week, there's a week or two delta where our camp is continuing and their summer school ends, essentially at summer school. Their summer school ends, and so some of those parents choose to bring those kids to our camp for those 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Councilmember Fayad.
I don't have any questions yet.
Okay, Councilmember Radiant.
Yes, on the updated 2 positions, are these employees now serving 2 roles, or are they moving to a new one, or are they just being labeled as something else?
So the office specialist 2 has taken over the licensed clerk positions, and that is her title. So we no longer have a licensed clerk position. And then as far as the administrative office coordinator, we don't have a public works secretary position. So this update is just to make sure we're updating to what we have currently.
And Councilmember Heredia, just to add on to that, you are correct. These are people in current positions with current titles. And we only have one time a year to update the fee schedule to reflect what is currently being charged. So this will allow us to charge their hourly rate with the fully burdened rate, which includes benefits as well.
So they were already doing this job?
Correct.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza?
So I was looking over, some of the building fees, earlier, and are we, I probably asked this question before, but are we, how are we lined up with other nearby cities, with regard to our fees? Now, I know you said it's been 9 years, so, but some of them went up like 30%.
So our fire fees are the ones that we haven't changed in 5 years, but if the council recalls, back in 2018, we did do a wholesale update of some of our building fees, which includes increasing the deposits. So, right now, really the bulk of the fees is for fire, and bringing, all of the fees that are required and all of the fees that the fire uses into our fee study. So we recover those fees for self-selected services, opposed to putting them in the general fund. On the engineering side, the increased cost of our contractor requires us to increase those costs on almost a yearly basis. And then I think your other question was, is how much, are we fully recovering all of our planning fees, and how do we compare? We're probably one of the more least expensive because we are a deposit-based system for planning and for most of the part for planning and the rest of our building envelope. And so we charge the cost of our employee directly for the time that they work on that particular project, plus all of the consultants that work on that project. So when we increase the rates of our employees and we don't increase the fee study, then the general fund is subsidizing that money.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're not making it harder to build here.
No. Yeah, we're still fairly cheap, and if you talk to the larger development communities, we don't have in our development envelope, Mello-Roos's, we have one impact fee, which is our park land dedication, which is a fairly nominal fee. Exactly. Where other cities have a lot more impact fees that they charge on development, we don't. We're fairly straightforward and fairly easy to process an application from an expense side of the house.
And then, I'm wondering, like on page 21 of the report, or it's page 2 of, the actual draft. Some of these fees, I'm wondering if we might want to update. So, since Little Darlings closed, do we still need adult entertainment establishment on here? Get rid of that? And bingo? When's the last time anybody's played bingo other than, I mean, once it went off, but, so there's a fee to play bingo. And then peep show, and maybe I'm naive, but do we have peep shows
Staff concurs, we can get rid of the dancer fee that is in the fee study, that was really.
we don't really need anything like that to come back.
And assessment, we can remove that. However, we do have an adult bookstore, and if they ever want to restart their peep show, they have to file that permit. And so I don't want to lose that amount unless that bookstore ends up leaving Lemon Grove like Little Darlings. Leaves Lemon Grove, and I'm sorry, I missed your third request.
Bingo?
Bingo. We actually had, a nonprofit petition to do bingo, so we need to keep that in mind as we're trying to figure out how to approve that bingo game for that nonprofit.
Okay, and then as you know, I was our in our city, I really would like us to start looking at increasing those funds. Because there is still a lot of underage sales to tobacco minors. $400 for first violation, it's just a slap on the wrist, for these folks who are making a ton of money. Who are making a ton of money, off selling, tobacco products and Torby. I'd like for us to get that, well, maybe I'll make that part of our goal setting, but I think we should need to start looking at increasing those, violations.
Mayor, Pro Tem, may I make the suggestion, we can put that on the tax radar, because that really has to go through the city attorney's lens as well, to make sure that we're not, increasing the fines so enormously we violate state law. We can come back and amend that portion of the fee anytime. It just means we have to go through another public hearing, and then the fee doesn't enact for 60 days after the resolution is passed. So if the council gives us the latitude, we can come back and take a look at that after it runs through some of the council muster, or the legal muster.
I think they'll come home raise their fees.
We will definitely take a look at that.
On the fees, we have the opportunity to have a prior public hearing on this. And this is really just trying to right-size the fees so it actually covers our costs, and we don't, with some of these fees, we're actually subsidizing these programs, and while I have no problem subsidizing the camps, and we talked about that, some of these other items are, this is the cost of doing business, and they're very reasonable cost increases that cover just our basic costs. We're not trying to make profit on any of this, we can't make a profit on any of this. And so we're just trying to right-size this to make sure that the city is getting, fully reimbursed, fully recovering, fees and resources we have to expend to be able to make these projects. I'll go around one more time just to make sure, that we've heard from all the council members. Anyone have any additional questions, comments, or concerns at this time? Councilmember Fayad?
Yeah, question, Stacy, if you could, I was just saying, if you could you, we're talking about the 3% increase for all city positions. Could you, speak into that a little bit more?
Sure, so, part of the labor agreements with the fire and also the ASME, group with Public Works, their agreements have built in 3% increase for the positions. And so typically, for the non-represented employees would follow suit with that 3% increase as well. And so on this, appendix A for all positions, and that's what we're doing, is just increasing across the board the 3%.
Now, is that, 3%, is that an annual increase?
Yes. And that typically happens on the 1st of July, so that would be effective July 1st, 2025.
So does that increase include, now, is like merit raises, is that separate? Do we do merit raises, or?
That is separate from merit raises. The 3% it's like a COLA increase, the cost of living adjustment increase.
Councilmember Fayad, we can clarify, on Appendix A on the attachment C, it lists the various titles with the hourly rate, including overtime, overhead, and then which results in the fully loaded rate. What we do on every single position is we take top staff to ensure that we do cover any merit increases that happen within the year as well. Because our public employees do get a cost of living increase, or at least we recommend a cost of living increase if we can afford it, every year for all of the employees except for the contracted employees. And then if they're a tenured employee and they're here less than 11 years, we do have a merit step increase. And so those step increases have a 5% differential between step A to step B, step B to step C. So when we build this, we always build at the top step so we have, we cover our costs.
Thank you.
Councilmember Herdia?
No further questions, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza?
I just wanted to add that I think the refundable deposits at the parks is a good idea. I've been by on Monday mornings before, and sometimes it's pretty scary, under those gazebos,
Thank you so much. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll move that we close the public hearing.
Second?
I will second.
City Manager, can you call the roll?
There's a motion and a second to close the public hearing, and now we'll call the roll. Councilmember Altamirano? Aye. Councilmember Fayette?
Aye.
Councilmember Heredia? Aye. Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza? Aye. Mayor Snow?
Aye.
Mayor, you have a 5-0 vote to close the public hearing.
Well, now we'll go to the next round of questions. Does anybody have any further questions or comments? Okay, do we have a motion to adopt the resolution?
I move that we adopt a resolution approving the City of Lemon Grove master fee schedule for fiscal year 2025.
Second? Councilmember Alvarado.
I'll second.
And City Manager, can you call the roll?
Absolutely. There was a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza and seconded by Councilmember Altamirano to approve the resolution to adopt the City of Lemon Grove's fee schedule for fiscal year 25-26. I will now call the roll. I'm trying to channel the city clerk. Councilmember Altamirano. Aye. Councilmember Fayette.
Aye.
Councilmember Heredia.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza.
Aye.
Mayor Snow.
Aye.
Mayor Snow, the motion passes at a 5-0 vote.
Okay, wonderful. I'll look to my council members. Are you down for about a 3-minute break? Okay, we'll take a quick 3-minute break and then we'll move to item number 4 after that.
Yeah, that's when you know it's shared. It's on the easement, sure. Until one of these goes off. That's a problem too.
Next time you tell me to come, you'll be up here, I said, listen to more about it. I'll be I said no before.
What I'm saying is, this fence or all the way to the public property. Okay. So when you're on your property, you know where your neighbor's at. You see what he's paying. Well, we're going to see sleeping dogs. This issue of starting to look ugly.
So he actually
Yeah, don't, if it gets ugly, please, but there's, like, I can talk to our, because we have like a code guy in the county, I can talk to us about those things. There's always a line between civil and criminal, and right now it's not civil.
I keep hearing it, I'm like, there's this fire marshal King's going.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think it's.
So, I have a piece of paper one you'll be able to do that. Well, I know
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the reports to council. We're on item number 4. This is the item recommended measures T spending plan for fiscal year 2025-2026. I'm going to call upon Sandy Singh, our finance director, and Dwight Bates, our senior management analyst, to present the report. And as they're getting ready to present this report, I wanted to make note that there's several members of the Measure T committee in our audience, and I just wanted to express my deep gratitude for the role that you've played in pulling this together, for holding the hearings, for helping prioritize how we're going to spend this money and providing recommendations to us. It is a labor of love. It's certainly not a labor paid for. So we appreciate the time and energy that went into putting together these thoughtful spending recommendations. I also wanted to especially recognize Chair Caballas for leading the Measure T committee. And I will turn it over to Stacy Taylor.
All right, so good evening again. So tonight, like the mayor said, that we do have the Measure T committee here to present their recommendations. But before Ms. Karina Crovales come up to do her presentation on the spending plan, I would like to provide an overview of the Measure T and the role of the committee as a refresher. So next slide, please. So the Measure T, the Lemon Grove sales tax measure was placed on the November 5th, 2024 ballot. Over 71% of the voters approved this measure. It added 1 cent or 1% transaction and use tax, or we sometimes refer to it as sales tax, for the next 10 years. It will provide an estimated $5.9 million annually, and this fee will become effective July 1st, 2025. So it's just coming up soon. Ordinance number 466 added the chapter 3.18 Lemon Grove 1 cent transactions and use tax to the Lemon Grove Municipal Code. Next slide, please. Our ordinance 466, the Measure T Oversight Committee was formed on February 25th, 2025. And the intent of the Measure T is to fund the repairs and other essential services, including infrastructure such as streets, sidewalks, storm drains, traffic signals. And also it would fund the parks, playgrounds, sports fields, etc., public facilities, and also public safety services. Next slide, please. The role of the committee acts as an advisory committee for the city council. It provides input and recommendations on the spending of the Measure T tax revenue. At the May 7, 2025 special committee meeting, staffs from fire, public safety, public works, and community services presented the projects or items to the committee for their considerations for using Measure T funding. So at the May 28, 2025 regular committee meeting, the spending plan for the fiscal year 2025-26 was finalized by the committee. So tonight, again, Ms. Karina Crovales, committee chair, is here to do the presentation, presenting to the council on the recommended Measure T spending plan for fiscal year 2025 and 2026. Ms. Crovales, please come up and do your presentation.
Hello, good evening, honorable city council members and the mayor. Thank you for taking time to listen to our committee's input on those important decisions regarding distribution of local citizen funds to improve level ground for both citizens, visitors. In consideration of the prospective distribution of funds, our committee members have reviewed provided presentations and documents, as well as we visited some of the sites from the list of options provided. In effort to focus on concerns voiced by our local constituents, which were initially on the ballot, we wanted to focus on items which would be best serve our community members who so passionately voted for this measure. While committee received a number of valid and important concerns, Measure T is estimated to bring only 5.5 to 5.9 million in the first year, so we were only able responsibly justify the first year expenditures of approximately 5 million. Allow me to read the summary of the measure, exactly how it was worded. to provide funding for city services in Lemon Grove, such as keeping local streets, sidewalks, storm drains, parks, community facilities safe, clean, well-maintained, fixing potholes, providing fire protection, paramedic, police, and 911 emergency response, traffic management, addressing homelessness, and removing graffiti and trash. The committee listened to each proposal carefully and worked to select initiative which would both benefit Lemon Grove as a whole, while also providing tangible and visible change which taxpayers could feel the benefit of. I will now provide the summary of initiatives that have been proposed with the spending year 25-26. I will only be talking about initiatives that we feel like we should be funding in the first year. We'd like to start with a public works requests. The first one on the list would be the street pavement. We have heard repeatedly that it's point of contention for many residents, and many people who voted for this measure had road improvements as one of their priorities for the funds to be directed towards. We asked our Public Works Director, Izzy Mundia, if 1.5 million requested would be enough to fix a substantial amount of roads, and we were told it wasn't. So after careful consideration, the committee voted to allocate an extra $500,000 to roads specifically, to give our city a better head start to move forward with road repavement and provide citizens with smoother rides sooner rather than later. Next item would be sidewalks. This aligns with the improvement of the roads and was a big ticket item on the ballot. And the committee recognizes the importance of improved walkways and sidewalks for citizens both safety and comfort. There's a sidewalks by our schools, official building, parks, and more. It will also connect the gaps where the sidewalks are missing. Next item would be storm drains. Many of you can attest to the devastating damage from rainstorms within the last 3 years. For both safety of our citizens and properties, the committee has chosen to emphasize the importance of the maintenance and upgrades to our storm drains. Next one would be traffic signal improvements. It's been noted that a number of traffic lights are outdated or broken. Again, for both safety of the community and those transiting by foot, we wish to ensure that a safer walk or ride with traffic lights which operate effectively. Next one would be Madera Street improvement. This is just funding for the design. If you drove in Madera, you know it's probably one of the worst streets to drive on in Lemon Grove. The design of this specific street would allow for future improvements based on proper planning to look for grants to improve it, as well as improve accessibility for pedestrians, local students, their families, and mitigate traffic problems due to speeding and general violations. Next would be city vehicle replacements. This includes support vehicles for roadway improvements and their upgrades, funding of the dump truck, we were told that's needed, and other similar necessary upgrades for implementation of the projects that we are requesting in connection to those. Same thing goes for the city operation equipment replacement. Additionally, repair and upgrade of backhoes and other heavy equipment, vehicles for public works, maintenance and support. Again, those would be needed for our road and storm drains and sidewalk works. Then I'd like to move to the safety part, safety program that we called COPS, which stands for Community Oriented Policing Services. Committee felt some degree of financing towards safety and cleanliness of our neighborhood was legitimate. With COPS program, there would be 2 deputies patrolling and investigating suspicious activities in the city, such as possible illegal drug dispensaries, transient camps, outstanding arrest warrants, parolee monitoring, investigating illegal graffiti and firework complaints, while also enforcing safety in the neighborhood overall. We thought that would be a good program for us to have. And the last thing is summer day camp scholarship for homeless youth. Lemongrass has a robust summer community program for youth to participate in, and this initiative would be a way to ensure our youth have a balanced socioeconomic opportunities. Also, the money requested for it is just a drop in the bucket of our budget that we're talking about, so we thought we should also approve that. As you can see in our spreadsheet, we went very conservatively about spending. If we only allocated $5 million, so our thought was if we collect more money, maybe there would be some leftover for maybe some other projects and initiatives that were not presented to us that we can spend this money on, or have some reserves for emergencies, or we could roll this money over to next year. Thank you for taking time to listen to our suggestions. And we're happy to answer any additional questions.
Thank you so much for the presentation, Ms. Corvallis. Next, we'll move to Mr. Bates. Does Mr. Bates have additional, or is that the conclusion of the presentation?
Yes, Mayor, that was the conclusion of the presentation. And the staff recommends the council consider the recommended Measure T spending plan for fiscal year 25-26. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. City Manager?
If the clerk can go back one more slide, I wanna point this out to the city council, is the request that came to the Measure T committee was a little over $9 million. And they funded 5 of those 9. So they said no to several projects. And they do exactly what you had to do, is make choices, and make those choices which is best benefit from the community from their perspective. And I think from a community standpoint, or committee member standpoint, I think this was the first time they had to grapple with these kind of choices, looking at taxpayer dollars, which is very much what you're gonna be doing in your next item of making choices of what to do. But I think the committee did a yeoman's work of trying to pull down that list to get some very meaningful programs funded for the city of Leominster. And most of the staff is here that made the presentation to the public, to the Measure T committee, so if there's any very specific questions you have based on some of the funding, we can certainly try and answer those questions.
Okay, and I would just like to take the opportunity, if you participated as a member of the committee or as an alternate, please stand up so we can recognize you and give you a round of applause, because this was hard work. Thank you so much. We'll now go around and you can ask questions or do deliberations. We'll start with Councilmember Altamirano.
Thank you everyone again that participated and that is part of this committee. We appreciate you guys very much. With the uncertainty of times and the economic going up and down, I really wish that we had stayed under the 5 million, because we're not quite sure that we're gonna get the full 5 million. And I also would like to have seen, I know part of the Measure T address graffiti and cleaning up trash, and I didn't see any of that here. there was no money put aside to either code enforcement or graffiti abatement or trash cleanup. So that's something that I would have liked to see. And then if we could, from staff, if we can get a little bit more information on the COPS program and the differences between two sheriff's deputies and the COPS program as far as cost and what they provide for the public.
Councilmember Altamirano, I'll try and take the first question about, or the second question about the COPS deputies. So the COPS deputies are what we call deputies, back up. Deputies in a patrol call, patrol call car are called your reactive deputies. They respond to 911 calls. They go there in the sense of an emergency, and they take care of the problem, and then they normally hand off whatever is a further investigation, say it's a burglary or a robbery, to a detective, and then they follow with the investigation. What we're looking at here is more proactive deputies, which are not on the patrol car. If there is a social issue like a report of an illegal dispensary, or we're seeing an uptick in drug activity at one of the parks. What these COP deputies do is they will then take the initial step after the patrol deputy gets these calls, or they come into myself, or they come into the lieutenant, and then they will do their investigation. Most of these COP deputies are trained in undercover activity, they've been in other specialized fields, so they can do work on a more flexible basis than a patrol deputy. And talking with the current lieutenant and previous lieutenants, that was the one piece of our puzzle for law enforcement activity that was missing. That missing piece to work with patrol closely, to work on some of the what we call social crimes that really aren't detective based, but we can handle at the local level. The COPS deputies, or in this case, the special purpose deputies, according to our contract, and we have a standardized contract with all of the contract fees, and all the deputies cost the same cost. So it is not necessarily, they get this amount of money, there's a lot of things loaded into their cost. An SPO or COPS deputy costs the same as a patrol deputy, which is $236,000, $553 and change for one deputy. It's always for officer safety. You need to have them in pairs. They need to have a buddy, so they can do whatever investigation they need to do in pairs for officer safety. And then there's startup costs for the first year. And so the startup costs for a single SPO is $29,771, plus radio replacements, which means they have to get their own radios, which is about $670 per deputy. So these one-time startup costs, plus the ongoing cost for the full year, is what the amount that was asked. The specific amount was $556,972. The committee rounded up graciously for $577,000.
Will they be patrolling in like a official sheriff's car, or how will they move around the city?
It depends. It depends on what their assignment is. They could be in a black and white, they can be in an undercover car. It just depends on what they're working on. And this is what the beauty is of these COPS deputies, is sometimes they will be in uniform, sometimes they will be in plain clothes, sometimes you will see them, sometimes you won't. Because that's the nature of their assignment. It's incredibly flexible, and again, it allows our patrol deputies to do what they do best, which is be reactive to crime. It allows the detectives to do what they need to, is investigate crimes that they need to investigate. It allows that sort of middle piece, those social crimes, the graffiti, the drug dealing, that really won't really come to the attention unless it's a huge issue, but they can help solve those problems. And I'm gonna look at the lieutenant to see if he wanted to add anything else regarding the value of COPS deputies in the sheriff's complement. And they will be here in Lemon Grove. They won't be anywhere else, they will be our deputies. And the promise I made to the Measure K committee when we made this position is, we're gonna try this just like we did with the motor deputy as a pilot program, to see if there is effectiveness with these cop deputies. I will work with the lieutenant to have very measurable outcomes, and if those outcomes aren't met, then we won't recommend moving forward with this program.
On that, do we know of any other cities using the COPS program?
I can tell you in the 9 sheriff's contract cities, we are the only city that does not have cops deputies in the sheriff's contract. Lieutenant?
And that includes not just the contract cities, but the unincorporated stations as well. They all have a crime suppression team. Poway has a criminal apprehension team. So every station has some type of team that the city manager is referring to, except for Lemon Grove. And the value is you can't put a value on it. I was a cops sergeant in Imperial Beach. I managed a team of 3 deputies, and they dealt with all the quality of life issues, the graffiti, the alcohol in the city, the drugs, juvenile stuff outside of the schools that the SROs couldn't handle. A lot of the stuff that would go on in Imperial Beach at the beach. So they're a very, very proactive team. Their schedules vary. They can work whenever they want. We allow them to work. They can work from midnight till 9 in the morning. So their schedules vary. Their vehicles vary. You don't know what they're driving in. They're very community-based in the sense that they're out there. They're meeting and greeting more so than the patrol deputy can, because the patrol deputies are like the city manager said, they're very reactive. They're answering up the radio. They're going to call to call to call to call, and when they're not going call to call to call, they're writing reports at the firehouse. So these guys are out there getting into the weeds a lot more than what our patrol deputies do. It's an excellent asset. If we can see them in our city someday, that would be a great asset to the city.
Councilmember Altamara, that was a big part of my question too, so thank you for asking that. Councilmember Fayad. Oh, we have the second part.
Sorry, there was the second part of the question, and your other question was trash and graffiti in public works, and I'll have Mr. Morgia address that. But I think some of the equipment and the new trucks that we were asking for will help facilitate some of that with the team that we have, some of the new equipment, to help facilitate some of those trash and graffiti questions that we have. The one graffiti question is a policy question of the city council. Currently, right now, because of liability reasons, we only eradicate graffiti from public property. We don't eradicate graffiti from private property because of liability reasons. And that really is a policy change, because if we were to eradicate graffiti and then the property owner didn't like how we eradicated that, that opens up the city to liability, that opens up the city to say, you went and damaged my building, now you owe me money. Which is why most cities don't do private graffiti removal unless there is a tangible agreement. We've just never had the staff nor the council direction to start doing that.
I recall, I live in a corner and my fence gets tagged all the time, and I do recall the city covering it up multiple times. Do you know when that change was made?
That change probably was made during the recession time when the city had to pull back on a lot of programs, when they eliminated a lot of programs during the 09, 010, 012 recession period. And the city never really bounced back from the recession. We just started getting our head above water probably in about 21, 22 is when our budget started looking more positive.
Thank you.
Councilmember Fayad? Oh, and I just wanted to make a note, we did not have any speaker slips for public comment.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So, thank you, Karina, for the presentation. Thank you, Measure T Committee, for all the hard work that you guys put into this. I'm still a little, although I love the concept of the COPS program, like, so I went on to see what other cities, and you're right, there's Santee does it, and then I kind of got an overview of how Santee runs theirs. And then they talked about how, I'm gonna read what, just what they had on their website. The cops deputies also conduct patrols focused on gang activity, persons on parole, probation, persons with outstanding warrants, graffiti, human trafficking, prostitution, habitual offenders, transient camps, alcohol, tobacco related crimes. So here's my concern with the COPS program. My concern with the COPS program is all of those things sound great, okay? But to me, there is this kind of the transient camps. It feels like what exactly can they do to the transient camps? Because from what I understand, we cannot do anything with homeless encampments. We can try, but it usually doesn't work out. So my concern is that if this is a program that we're going to spend $500,000 on, I just don't see. I mean, I think it's great, but I just don't want to commit to this type of program if it's not going to pay off in the dividends at the end of. So if we were to run a pilot program, if we were to do something, I would love to give it, kind of a trial run to see if this is something that fits our city. Because this is I mean, again, to me, I think, the transient camps to me are the most, they stick out the most, as far as and then another thing too, Lieutenant, you shared that, who determines their assignment? And then who determines their assignments? Two, I'm just not sold on they can work any schedule. What does that mean? How does that serve the community well if they can work any schedule? I mean, if they work 9 to 5, 12 to 8, I just think there needs to be, it just seems like it's kind of still a little bit out there, muddy, doesn't really have a structure to what I feel like we really need our city to have. So that's one of my questions. And then the other thing too is we're talking about summer day camp. It feels like, correct me if I'm wrong, just saying, but it feels like we just kind of made an adjustment in our master fee schedule to help with summer day camp. Is that true?
So I'll address that. So what this will do is this will send homeless youth who are in our school system to our summer camp. So what it would do is it would allow their parents, or they'd be there 2 meals a day, child care for the 8 weeks, and we budgeted that at $665 per student, which came out to $19,950, and we just put that up to $20,000, which would send 30 kids to camp over the summer.
So we know for a fact that we have 30 homeless kids.
We could imagine that throughout our school system, there would be more than 30 homeless kids.
Okay. I mean, I got a lot more, but.
So Councilmember Fire, before I forget your COPS question, let me answer this second part and then I'll hand it over to the lieutenant. Yes, that's why we're trying this as a pilot program, to make sure that it fits in our community and make sure that we can get the measurable benefits from a program like this. And I can't imagine that they would be spending a lot of time in our transient camps, but they can, if they're investigating, say, drug activity that is going on in the Promenade Park. Sure. And their drug activity and their CIs and investigation leads them to a transient camp, then that's what allows them to go in there. And maybe the lieutenant can correct me, but the reason why their schedule is so flexible, unlike a patrol deputy, which is on some 6 to 6 or 12 to 12, they need to have the flexibility to follow the investigation that they're working on. So if they need to be here in the middle of the night to find the little punks that are doing the graffiti all over town, that's why they have the schedule. And Lieutenant can correct me, but their assignments actually come from the lieutenant and the sergeants. They just don't make it up. They have actual goals that they have to make. Lieutenant, do you want anything else to add? And by the way, Lieutenant Barry is in his, he's doing reserve duty right now, so that's why he's in his Air Force uniform.
I thought you were just trying to be cool.
Just, making it good so you can sleep well in the blanket of freedom that I provide every night.
Wow, I appreciate that. Wow.
So,
you know what, no to the cops program now.
so the city, like the city manager said, she laid it out, and just to touch on the schedule, it's an incredible benefit to have that flexibility. They will work the hours that they're being paid for. They're not just gonna slop off and do whatever they wanna do. It's a schedule that's put forth from the sergeant and more so from the directive of command. Just to touch on the transient camps, you said you were looking at the City of Santee's website. Long before we had a significant problem here, Santee had a significant problem with transient camps in their riverbeds.
Sure.
So that's always been on their cops' duties down there to go and they're not going down there and tearing them up. They're going down there and they're checking on the welfare. So for us, there would be some benefit to that, but I think we would just add more to our cleanups, to the assist that we do with Caltrans, because that right now we're using our patrol deputies for that. So we're taking our patrol deputies away from patrol duties momentarily throughout the day to assist highway patrol and the Caltrans with the cleanups. That would be a benefit to us if they had more resources and we weren't using our patrol deputies. So the schedule, the flexibility it's a plus for us. And then really it's all quality of life benefits. So if the city council is coming to the city manager and to me and say, hey, look, we're seeing some issues over here, then we can direct those cops deputies towards those issues. So, you know, that's a discussion we can have, and we can come up to a solution.
So Lieutenant, do the cops, do the deputies have the authority to make arrests?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Can I keep going?
Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
Thank you. Let's see, so, and then my, another thing that was brought up, is the street payment of 25 PC, you know, lower than 25 PCI. Maybe Izzy, you can answer this, but does Mount Vernon fall under 25 PCI? No, I mean, I'm talking about specifically in front of the school.
Yes.
So if we're asking for $2 million for that, would that be part of that program? So, I mean, will it be on the list to tackle first?
It could be. So staff's way that we are proposing how those funds would be allocated, thank you for Measure T for allocating those funds, is we would come to the council with a discussion item and propose streets under 25 PCI throughout our 4 maintenance zones and get input from the council on which streets would make the cut, quote unquote, for repavement, and Mount Vernon in that area that you're talking about would qualify.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's, you know, it's not a secret that in front of all of our schools, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like even driving down San Miguel is, to me, I'm not a road guy, but to me it would seem like it falls into that 25 PCI as well as Madera. So what I would like to see is if we're gonna spend $2 million, I would like to see our schools and our roads of our schools be priority. I mean, yes, we need it throughout the city, but we need it even more so in front of our schools. And so to me, I think if we're gonna put that kind of a chunk of money into street pavement, we should consider looking at the schools as a top priority above anything else. So that's just one of my concerns, because that's a big chunk of money, which is cool, and I think it's necessary. But I also think we need to do something, because I know driving down San Miguel, driving down Madera, they're just, I can't imagine being a parent who has to drop my kid off and pick them up every day driving down those roads. So I think it's something that we should consider as we see if we're gonna move forward with something like that. And then one more thing too, is as we're looking with the Madera street traffic, the improvement design, what does that $200,000 get us? Like,
So for that project would fund a design for traffic calming and a complete street design. So there's two options for Madera Street. Repave it as how it is, which I guarantee you would increase speed. As it is, there's already high speeds along that corridor.
Sure.
Staff is recommending that we reimagine what that street looks like, narrowing the lanes, doing some bump outs, pedestrian crossings, the works that we could design for that area. And so that's what that funding would go for, a design to improve Madera Street. So it's part of two phases. So that the design comes first, and then we would likely come back to the Measure T committee with requests to fund what the design, the output of the design, excuse me.
The construction cost of the design. We're all a little bit tired, sorry about that, and I know you are as well. To design this, so it would be more of a complete street, it would be something that would be friendly as a Safe Routes to Schools project, with a complete streets on that Madera. So again, as Mr. Morgia said, we would reimagine that street, it wouldn't look the same, once the design and construction is complete. So the goal is to make it safer for kids walking to school or biking to school, as well as slowing the traffic down.
I appreciate that. But I also think that if we're going to reimagine Madera, we should also reimagine what we just had people speak on about San Miguel earlier this evening. Like, if we're going to reimagine Madera, right, because we want it to be safer for our kids, we should also reimagine what it looks like for San Miguel to have the same safety protocols as
So with San Miguel, we have applied we've applied for 3 grants for San Miguel to do that in partnership with the school, because the school is looking at a redesign as well. So we've been working in partnership with them. We've gotten turned down twice for a grant. We asked for a congressional allocation from Congresswoman Jacobs last fiscal year. That got turned down. We resubmitted, and we are, I'm not supposed to announce it yet since you didn't hear this, but we are one of the projects she is going to be moving forward to Appropriation Commission. So we have been looking at this for the San Miguel portion for the last 5 years, and we understand that every school should get some of the TLC. We just need to make choices, and Madera School, San Alto School has been not one that the city has paid attention to. There has been some improvements on this STEM Academy, Monterey Heights. We've done improvements for the schools out here. We've done improvements, a little bit of improvements for Mount Vernon, but we really haven't paid attention to Madera, which is why we are recommending that, which is why Public Works and City Administration is behind the recommendation of the design for Madera Street, because that one does have traffic that goes incredibly fast, and it really is what keeps, of the one school and the one street segment that keeps me up at night, that's the one.
City Manager, if I may, additionally, on San Miguel, we are restricted with right-of-way issues. Ideally, we'd love to put a sidewalk in on the north side, but we're really restricted with property lines on the north. And as you know, that corridor is super narrow, so it really restricts what we can do. San Miguel from Massachusetts to Janaya Place is actually on the PMP, so it's scheduled to be repaved in 25-26. We have to discuss further because the school has applied for a grant, so we have to work the timing out for that. But it is scheduled to be repaved for 25-26. Madera Street, wider, sufficient right of way. You don't have those restrictions there. Hence the recommendation.
Sure. While I have you up there, Izzy, could you speak into the two items of vehicle replacement and operation equipment replacement? Those are kind of just vague descriptions of what that money is going towards. So if you can speak into that a little bit, that'd be great.
Sure, I'll start off with the equipment. We recommended to Measure T to funding to replace our backhoe and funds to replace our skid steer. So those are the major workhorses of the department. There are only two major construction equipment that we have. Both pieces of equipment are approximately 20 years old. The backhoe specifically is becoming difficult to find replacement parts. So we had to replace one of the tires, and we had to source it from Germany, believe it or not. And the backhoe pretty much we use on a day-to-day basis. So from homeless encampment cleanups to flooding, so clearing mud and debris from Canton Drive and Lemon Grove Ave. We had any emergencies, that piece of equipment is utilized. If that equipment goes down, our fallback is a rental. And in times of emergency, everyone's going to be looking for a rental, and it is recommended that we have a replacement and then have the current one utilized on reserve. On any, usually in any municipality, you have two pieces of equipment, such as a backhoe or skid steer, because typically when you come across an emergency, you're going to need two. So that's the equipment. With the funding allocation, the Measure T committee recommended less than what we requested, so we'll have to prioritize either the skid steer or the backhoe, depending on the quotes that we get back. But both are vital to our fleet. Secondly, the vehicles. The request that we put in is to replace two or three vehicles total, but two of our most aging vehicles in our parks and facilities division. Both vehicles remove trash from the parks on a daily basis. One of the vehicles is a 98 Ford Ranger. It just doesn't have that capability or capacity for removing all the trash, so we have to make multiple runs. The replacement costs, not the replacement costs, the maintenance cost is exceeding the value of the vehicle. And so we're recommending those replacements. Plus they're not efficient. So we have, one of the vehicles is a V10, which we don't need that in our fleet. As was mentioned earlier by the chair, we were hoping to get a new dump truck as well. So we currently have one dump truck, so that is shared amongst the department. So if we have a graffiti encampment cleanup, we can't do pothole repairs, because you usually use the dump truck for asphalt. And so it would open up the possibilities for what we can do by adding another dump truck, whether it's this year or next year.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Heredia.
Okay, so while we're on the subject of the vehicles and the operation equipment, we'll continue that. The backhoe and the skid steer, do any of those do streets or sidewalks?
Yes, they both. They both do. One of the I guess, unique features of a skid steer, what a newer skid steer. So our skid steer is undersized. So a skid steer has multiple attachments. So you can have a clamp, you can have a bucket, various attachments. We would like to get a skid steer that has a milling attachment so that we can address deeper potholes. So we could mill a 10-foot by 10-foot patch and repave that. Our current skid steer is undersized, so we wouldn't be able to do that. That's just one example, but backhoe, if we had to demo a sidewalk or demo asphalt or anything like that, that's the piece of equipment that would be utilized.
And would that increase our in-house repairs of streets and sidewalks, or would we still be doing about the same as what we were doing? So we do a lot of contracting with them.
Correct. I would say no change until, we provide training to do in-house laying of asphalt. There would be an increase of that activity. On the cement side, concrete work, that would still be contracted out until our staff is trained on those methods.
So training is all that's holding them back from being able to do that if you got this equipment?
Correct, which training is being addressed in our operating budget, so we have put money away for or recommending funds for additional training for our streets crews. So that is what we'll be focusing on in 25-26.
And then for the Madera Street, I understand the redesign and I like that. Can you remind me, I know you told me last meeting, I don't have it in front of me, how much it would cost to repair Madera? Do we know if we did the redesign and fixed it and actually repaired it?
So if you're replacing it like for like, so if we're just doing new pavement today and keeping it as it is, it's roughly $800,000 to $900,000 to repave from Massachusetts to 69th.
Okay, and if we went ahead and did the full deal and paid for the design and then?
So the design, again, the $200,000 that we're recommending, but depending, speaking with our traffic engineer on what the possibilities would be, we don't know what that construction cost would be. With narrowing the lanes, theoretically, we would be paying less for pavement, but you put in the other amenities, so additional sidewalks, medians, curbs.
Could double the price, essentially, like another million.
Honestly, a million, probably between $1 million and $1.5 million. If you look at like Connect Main Street, what that project costs, should give us a ballpark figure.
Okay, thank you. I just think that's important. As far as the storm drains and the new drainage facilities, I feel like that number is really low considering with the situation that we're in with the storm drains. So personally, I would like to see that part increase because I think we're like 100 and something million in the hole for that. And I don't feel like the $750,000 is getting us anywhere to get it accomplished.
And we take that comment in, but you have to understand that there's limited capacity to design and repair. And so we are taking them in the chunks that we know we can complete the project in a year. If we do more projects like you've seen in sanitation where we didn't have the capacity to complete those projects, now all they do is back up. And so we have all this money. So what we're trying to be is very purposeful and only asking for the money that we can use this year to complete the storm drain project. And this will be brand new. If you remember that from the CIP, this is for new storm drain.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then for the COPS program, I would prefer to hold off on this and actually do a presentation with the Sheriff's Department. Only because I'd like to outweigh the benefits of that program in our city versus possibly 1 to 2 more sheriff on duty. I also would like to redirect the sheriff to do more patrol and less just idling in the parking lot. deterrence is a real key factor, and you can talk to people in La Mesa, they see cops in their streets all the time, and that deters them from doing crime, so. Those are my recommendations to this.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza.
First of all, I want to compliment the Measure T committee. I think you guys did a great job of picking priorities. I noticed that everything that you checked off was a priority one, and I appreciate you sticking to the number one priorities in your recommendations. I also think that it's important that we respect your recommendations, and I respect them 100%. I don't question what you've recommended here. I am fairly certain that all of you have put a lot of time and thought into your recommendations, and I appreciate that. I also appreciate that you made a conservative suggestion. We're estimating 5.9 million, and you presented us with a plan for 5 million. And I think that was very wise of you to do that, because we really don't know how much we're going to collect from this. And like your chair said, I'm hoping that we can revisit this. So my only comment really is, do we have a plan for future, like are we going to revisit this biannually to see how much the measure has brought in? When is the committee gonna meet again? Are they gonna be given that information? Like how much has been taken in? How much progress has been made on their recommendations? Is that gonna be quarterly, biannually? And then will that come back to us?
And I'm gonna defer to the two staff members that have been working closely with the committee to answer those questions. So either Ms. Tang or Mr. Bates.
The committee team did discuss about meeting quarterly. We did talk about maybe meeting in October, November, to see the initial numbers of what the city has received as of that date regarding this new tax, and if there's any expenditures were made regarding this new tax. The finance department will be setting up a new fund to track this tax revenue, and then there will be financial reporting relating to this spending and the receiving of the tax revenue. And but we didn't really settle on a date, right? We just say it's quarterly meeting, and also talked about revisiting after 6 months to see where we're at, and then whether if we're seeing a good revenue that we're receiving, then possibly allocating more funding to other projects that were presented that were not being funded at this point, or possibly even other projects to be funded. So I don't know if I cover everything. Do you want to add anything, Ms. Morales?
Great, and then I'm just then come back to us with the information. And so then the only the only thing, I did want to say too, I appreciate the questions that my colleagues here asked. That there are a lot of things that did seem a little vague to me too. I mean, so I appreciate getting more information about some of these items. With regard to the summer day camp scholarships for homeless youth, I'm just wondering if we could expand that a little bit. If I like the idea of targeting kids who don't have, going to school for some kids is the highlight of their day, and the only time that they get a good meal. And, you know, we know children in our own neighborhood who, they have a home, but they're not being fed meals on a regular basis. And they, you know, rely on their neighbors, to help them out. I'd like, if, let's, my suggestion would be that we look for the homeless youth first, and then maybe open it up for any other at-risk children. And in the past, the school, you know, so then the next question is, well, how do you know if someone's homeless, or how do you know if if a child is at risk? And I think that the school principal is, at least at my grandchild's school, is very in touch with which children are not housed and which children are at risk. And these are the kids also that the sheriff's department helps out at the holidays with the Shop with the Cop program. So the schools know very well, like, which children. So I would just suggest that we reach out to our elementary schools and find out, you know, which kids can be. And you said 30, which is just, that's great. We can help 30 kids. So,
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza, I met with Superintendent Vision on Friday and gave her a heads up that this may be a possibility. And so she knows, my staff member that runs the day camps knows the team very well that works with the children. And so I said, once I get the yes that this is moving forward, I'll make sure that Ms. Armenti reaches out to the school team so they can start identifying children.
To go through my comments, one of the issues I was looking at was the recommendation from the fire chief to replace the fire engine. I understand that Measure T committee decided not to put any funding towards that this year. We will need one in the future. They take about 4 years to order, and the price tag keeps getting higher and higher. So one of the things that I want to make sure is that this is something that is on Measure T's radar. We may not need to do it this year, but with ever rising costs, that is something that is a top priority. It looks like one of the members would like to speak. If you want to come up.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council members. And so,
I actually think you might have accidentally turned it on.
no, I didn't touch it.
Well, okay.
I'll get my glasses on.
Mr. Pablo, over there.
Testing 1, 2.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council members. We discussed this in length, and so you can understand with not knowing how much money is going to come in and it not starting till July 1st, and nothing against our wonderful firemen. The presentation was made, he was there. We did put in a question to, the option was spending 1.5 million of the city's money, the new tax money, on a new vehicle that we would not see for 44 to 48 months. There were other things discussed in there. One, there's some litigation going on government-wise beyond us in the entire United States that is now limited to 1 or 2 companies that only make the trucks, which is illegal. I shouldn't say that, possibly not correct. So there's litigation going on there, which means it could open up where we could get a better pricing. But the other problem is we had to look at it and say, okay, there are things now that we could possibly spend money on that the voter could see happening. And then on this truck issue, if we spend 1.5 million and we're waiting 4 years, how do we, so we also asked them to come back and say, you know, we were gonna save some money. I don't remember if it was 1 to 300,000, so I'm gonna say $100,000. Sound about right that we were gonna save?
Close to 200,000.
Close to $200,000 if we spent 1.5 million. The committee said, hey, come back with other alternatives of financing. Maybe what we can do is spend $300,000 a year during those 4 years, where we could allocate that better and then just make the final payment, so when the truck's ready, yeah, we might have spent an extra $100,000 or $200,000, but we didn't take a big percentage of that money on one allocation. So we definitely agree that the trucks are older and we need something. We also did say, hey, let's look at a used truck. And he did say it was very difficult to get, but maybe some other city is more fortunate than us, and therefore they've been able to buy 2 new trucks, and we could grab their 1 or 2 year old truck to help us out, while we then still buy a new truck so that our vehicles would be more aged appropriate.
Okay, thank you so much, I appreciate it. It sounds like we're all on the same page and we know that we're gonna have to make this investment. And it's just the most appropriate way to make that investment, so thank you for that, for the analysis. On the second item for the cops at the LG substation, I think that's a wise investment. I like the idea of it being a pilot project. One of the concerns I had with using Measure T funds to cover staffing issues is that after this Measure T does have a sunset, and I don't want to get comfortable and used to having deputies who are providing this kind of support only in 10 years to not be able to afford them anymore. So I'm being very conscientious that some of these fundings, if we can't get an extension and we still need an extension, just being really careful and conscientious so that we don't end up with a structural deficit that we see some of our neighbors like the city of San Diego having, where they're looking at massive layoffs. I also like the summer day camp scholarship program. I agree with the other recommendations. One of the issues was number 12, where they're talking about increasing the amount of the funding request for the street pavements. I would almost want to stick with the 1.5 million funding request and move that extra 500,000 over to the Broadway median rehab project. It's kind of similar in the same vein that it's improving the way our streets look, but that would be a significant improvement to the way our downtown area looks. And that's, a lot of people are sick of looking at a really rundown 1970s version of Lemon Grove. And so I think this would help really make that a more beautiful area. And so, and it's still in the same vein of a street type of improvement. So I think it would still meet the goal of the Measure T committee to make streets better. But this would be a specific project that would make our downtown area actually nicer. I think the allocations on sidewalks and storm drains are appropriate. I really like the idea of doing a Madera Street traffic improvement that helps slow down the traffic in that community. It's a very wide road, people do go very fast down it. If we do make the road better, those potholes are actually serving as makeshift speed bumps. And so once we make that a smooth road, people are just gonna go flying down it. And I get calls all the time about that particular area around the San Alto School. Parents are very concerned with how people are driving through that community. And not for nothing, it's our neighbors, so everybody just needs to slow down and take your time and be conscientious about how you're driving. But I would like something around the school districts that promotes safety and traffic calming measures. And then so number 18 was where I wanted to reallocate those funds from the additional 500,000 from item number 12 to item number 18. And I think the vehicle number 19 and 20, I think that's appropriate, what's already been allocated there. A couple of other things that I wanted to point out as well is that if we don't want to do the Broadway medium, there's a lot of lighting needs in our community. So to the extent that we do see more of that 5.9 million, the extra 900,000 that's not accounted for, looking at some of those lighting projects would be one of my priorities. And also we saw a huge investment in our community through the Gifty gift card program. And we had used American Recovery Act funds, which were part of the COVID funds, to help fund the last wave of that. And our not only our businesses benefited from that program, but also the consumers benefited from that program. It stretched your dollar just a little bit further, and we're gonna head into some really tough economic times. So I would also like to look at possibly looking at it, at bringing back the Gifty gift card program, and maybe Measure T funds would be appropriate for this, or even we take a look at our general revenue funds. But I think that would go along with what we're trying to do to help promote our businesses, between getting the Broadway median repaired and like a Gifty gift card program. That would be an effort to help our businesses along. And I think that Measure T was really like, we wanted the nice things. We saw our neighbors in El Cajon getting, beautiful downtown area. We saw our neighbors in La Mesa they have really improved their downtown, and 10, 12 years ago, they were right where our community was at. And I think a lot of people are expecting to see, just as Mr. Brown pointed out, they want to visually see change. That this is something coming out of their pockets, and they were willing to invest in themselves, and they want to see change, but they also want to see affordability. And so I think that these two things will bring that. And so with that, I'm going to go around and ask for any further or additional comments on this. We'll start with Councilmember Altamirano.
Does staff have a total number, maybe is the amount that we are planning on allocating towards streets and storm drains between both Measure T, Transnet, Sandbags, CDBG money? I think that's I would like to, before, moving money around and making a final decision on the allocated funds, I would kind of like to get like an overall idea of what we're spending on streets and the total that we're spending on storm drains.
So, Councilmember Altamirano, if you have the PowerPoint presentation from the CIP, it's in there. So if I'm looking for fiscal year 25-26, and if you're looking just at streets specifically, and this is just slurry seal, it is not for what is being recommended, which is under 25 PCI. We're looking at $1.3 million. So if, regardless of whether it's a 1.5 or 2 million, that would be additive to that.
Okay.
Just like we did with ARPA funds.
So I understand that this 2 million would be for streets that are below the 25 PCI.
Correct.
Okay, but in total, it would be the proposed 2 million plus the 1.3.
Correct.
And then is the CPDG money included on this?
No.
Okay, so it's
This is Transnet, SB1, and RMRA.
okay, so it's 2 million plus 1.3 plus 300,000.
No, I'm looking at we give you the total cost on the CIP, if you have that. I pulled the PowerPoint from the CIP workshop we had last week, and that's what I'm looking at. And it says 1.3 here, and that is all inclusive of Transnet and gas tax.
Okay.
And that's 1.3.
I will also second with Mayor Snow regarding lighting. It would be nice to have more lighting. And I didn't see anything allocated towards lighting, so it would be nice if we could shuffle around some funds and.
So lighting is a little bit particular, I'm sorry to interrupt, but a little particular. There's one thing about installing and putting on the lights, and now we have long-term maintenance with the lights. And so as part of the council goals, one of those goals is the council light. And one of the recommendations is, jumping ahead to items, is yes, let's put that on the council priority, but it gives staff the time to figure out both the one-time cost and the ongoing cost. And that really should fit into the lighting district and what that looks like. So allocating money now for lights is okay, but we won't know how to pay for them long-term and how to repair them long-term. And we need to have some sort of a structure and a plan around that.
Okay, and then regarding to the Broadway medium, is there anybody here from Revitalize Broadway that can speak to any projects that they may be working on that can either complement or interfere with allocating any funds towards that.
I'm on the committee, but there's something that.
Mr. Baskin, yes.
Sure. Yes, I'm on the committee. It's not hit our radar right now. We're talking about maybe Christmas decorations, things like that. Getting the businesses involved, the gifting program, we really want to see that, but nothing as far as what you mentioned.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have,
I do, I'd love to see.
okay, Mr. Brown?
So, I do apologize because on that medium, I didn't think it was to spruce up Broadway, as much. So that is something that we definitely look at. However, being a longtime resident and business owner, we have spent millions and millions on Broadway. So the only thing I would ask, both the committee and being a citizen is, let's thoroughly look at what we want to invest in to improve the look and for the businesses and for the community. Because like you said, La Mesa has greatly improved, Santee has greatly improved, but they've had a long time at planning it. I think we would be better over this course of maybe, 1 to 5 years, do a little and improve it, so that it's gonna be with us for 20 years. I've been there where we have put planters 5 feet high. No, take the planters down. Another one says, oh no, put them back up. No, do this. Millions of dollars that were spent that were in and out. So I would definitely love to see that, because it would benefit all of us if our businesses looked cleaner, nicer, sharper, and if we put a plan in, like Little Italy does, hey, you're gonna do this in this area, it has to go this way. And then we've spent that time, you guys have spent the investment of knowing what you want, and then we can say, wow, that's great, let's allocate money. Thank you.
And similar to what we're doing along the lines of Madera, where we're spending the money to do the design and everything, I think that's a really good point, so.
Thank you.
Councilmember Alvarado?
Those were all my questions.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Councilmember Fayad?
Thank you. Oh, yes, thank you. This is awesome. So when we're talking about, Mayor, when we're talking about Broadway medium rehab, are we talking about just the little downtown segment, or are we talking about from 94 all the way down to?
Councilmember Fayad, the proposed project would look at improving the medians on Broadway from north, right before you get onto the 94 on-ramp, to Massachusetts. So there's a variety there's both landscape and hardscape medians, but making it one cohesive, low, or drought tolerant improvement project. And then the second part of it is on the east side of Massachusetts. You have a median that's very, very low, and it has some like river walk, not even a river walk, it's very sad looking. From Massachusetts to, I think, might be Harris, I can't remember the streets, or Vista. But looking at improving that median as well. So that's what the overview of that proposed project consists of.
Okay. Let's see. Izzy, when was the last time we replaced vehicles?
The last vehicle we purchased was we purchased a backer truck last year, 2024, our sewer cleaning truck. That's a specialty vehicle. And then prior to that, we replaced in 2023, we replaced a heavy duty or medium duty truck for our sanitation division.
I would like to see, I know Councilmember Heredia, you probably have some insight on this, but I would like to see, I know you mentioned maybe a month or two ago that the Helix Water District applied for a grant and they got some electric vehicles, right, from that. I would like to see us kind of like tap into that, you know, see if we can, if there's anything that we can do on that end. Not that, you know, I think, you know, you need the tools to do the job, but I just think that, man, if there's a way we can tap into, you know, possibly getting a grant for those vehicles and maybe, you know, getting electric vehicles, I think that, you know, we could, it'll serve us well, and then maybe that's a, you know, chunk of money that we could, you know, $200,000 that we could put towards something else, you know, on the Measure T spending plan, but, you know, I mean, I think all these things are necessary, everything that's on the Measure T, you know, spending plan. But I, too, just want to be cautiously optimistic. I want to be, you know, I want to be hopeful, but I want to be cautious. I want to make sure, to be honest, we haven't received the penny yet. So I just want to make sure that, like, I'm a dreamer. Like, these things sound great, and I think that they're going to enhance our city. However, I just want to be realistic with what could possibly roll in this first year. And at the same time, too, 10 years is a long time. I mean, it is a long time, and I think, you know, these are opportunities for us to improve our city and to improve our community. And I think, you know, once a lot of these things, you know, once we, you know, spend the money to improve our, you know, street pavements and all that stuff, these are things that we can knock off our list that won't be an issue, you know, 10 years from now, because we're doing the work now. So, I mean, again, I'm optimistic as far as, you know, what this is gonna look like, and I'm hopeful that, you know, in 10 years, this is gonna be great for our city, and it's gonna be something really cool. We're gonna be better than La Mesa and all the other cities. That's it, thank you.
Councilmember Herdian?
Yes, I want to start off by first thanking all of you for the work that you did. I totally forgot to say that, because I rushed right into Izzy on the equipment, but.
She doesn't need it, she doesn't need it.
Thank you guys, I know how hard this work is. I've been on a committee, and it is hard to make the decisions, especially as a group of people. What I'm taking from this discussion is what I think would be really beneficial is if we could have a workshop that has Revitalize Broadway with us and the Measure T committee to kind of wrap our heads better around what our big picture is. I feel like we're piecing it out so much that, like, I have no clue what you guys are talking about over there. I had no clue what you guys had to talk over there. And so now it's being thrown at us, and I don't think we really even have enough information on the items. In some of the cases, I mean, some of them obviously we do, but in some of these items, I don't feel like we were given any presentation on it to know what it really truly means, like the cost thing. It's just a really important discussion to be had. And similar with those Broadway medians and some of these other improvements for that area. Other than that, I'm excited. I do want to be very cautious with our funds. I don't think that we should jump into too much at the first quarter, just so we can see, you know, what the revenues are looking like. With that, I appreciate your conservativeness. I think that was really key to this today. And so I look forward to seeing what we do.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza?
I don't have anything to add, except that I'd like to recommend that we accept the Measure T committee recommendations as presented to us.
And I will second it.
Is this something we can call a vote for?
No, this is only posted as a discussion item, so no motion is necessary at this time.
And City Manager, do you have any further comments?
Yeah, so what we are hearing tonight is we still have to build this into the budget, that you will be looking at on the 17th. And so this is gonna be one of those items that have discussion. So we will take all of the comments that we heard, and then give the council options, to then allocate these funds based on the discussion that we heard. And at that time, the council will then make the final determination on how those funds are allocated based on, and again, we're using this discussion based on the recommendation from Measure T, and then some other funding allocations that the city council have had. And so we'll give you options, much like this swap out of the 500,000 for the Broadway, as staff was taking.
I see we have, Minola, were you on the Measure T committee? Oh, come on up.
No, on the revitalized Broadway.
Oh, okay. Would you like a minute to speak?
Please.
Okay.
There seems to be some, there seems to be thought about, collaborating together around the options and things that everybody is doing.
That's statement 2.
So, what you should know is the president of Revitalize Broadway, plus at least one member, I'm looking at the people who are in there, one additional member of Revitalize Broadway are on the committee. So the president is very clear about where we're going and how we're going, and has incorporated that information into her recommendations and supportive items. So in this one situation, I don't think there's a concern that we're working in cross or that we're duplicating that.
No, I didn't mean it that way. I meant it more like so we could all be on the same page of like just like seeing a big picture.
And that's my point,
Together.
that there are people on the committee to make sure that happens.
Okay.
And the information goes back and forth to.
Right, but we're not getting is, I guess my point was, is that now here we are, and I'm gonna be making a very important decisions based off of these recommendations. It's important that I understand the recommendations, right? So like, I don't know I don't even know if Revitalize Broadway is gonna recommend anything, or how that, I don't know how that committee works. Or it's not even a committee, it's something else.
It's not a committee.
Right, and I don't know that does that organization have the power to do the medians and all those things? How does it work?
No, that's city property.
Okay, so you'd still come to us and present and seek financial backing?
If we needed it, yes.
Yeah, okay. So that's what I guess I'm saying, is that I would like to be on the same page so that I'm prepared with those, like the COPS is a perfect example of it. That's a big program and it's something that I can't learn in this few minutes of this one item, right? Whereas I know Measure T more than likely got a very robust presentation on it, so they fully understand it. I don't have any clue of what it really does or its success or any of those things. So I just would like to be having some kind of workshop maybe once a year, once every now and again, where we all can kind of talk about what you're working on. And you guys could present more to us so that we know what to be prepared for.
Yeah, I think, I really appreciate where you're going with this. I think one of the things that we can do is maybe have a committee, a committee within council, so maybe assign 2 council members to be really focused on downtown revitalization, and just have a downtown revitalization committee that is actively going and coordinating with the different groups that that might be able to do something like that. So, so that we can, continually be moving forward with that. And then I also think along those lines, maybe if we don't want to spend the money on the median project, maybe we reallocate that into creating a design plan and investing in a company. I know in Chula Vista, they had a group come in and help them envision what Third Avenue is gonna look like. And then they, little by little, were able to get the funds to be able to realize that vision, but it all starts out with having a vision to look at. Mr. Pratt, did you have to put your hand up? Okay. All right, I think that concludes the recommendation portion of this. I'm gonna turn it over to the city manager to do a quick check-in.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm looking at the policies and procedures of the city council agenda, and quite frankly, I'm supposed to do a check-in at 8:30, but I needed this item to get to its full fruition. We have 3 more items on the agenda, and they're both very, very lengthy items. we have, the fiscal year budget of 25-26 for the draft operating budget, your council priorities, and then the city calendar that sets the, holidays for the rest of the employees. Given this late hour and knowing that the budget discussion is gonna be no less than an hour, staff is making the suggestion if the members of the city council can continue this meeting to next Tuesday, January 6th, excuse me, June 10th at 6 p.m. June 10th at 6 p.m. to continue the remainder of the items for the city council meeting. If that is the pleasure of the city council, there needs to be a motion in a second, and we can continue the rest of this meeting to that date. If that is the pleasure of the council.
It would be noticed as a special meeting because it is not on a regularly, this is the Tuesday, but this is not the first or the third Tuesday, this is the second Tuesday of the month. So it would be a special meeting. So you can give direction to continue the remaining items of this, agenda to Tuesday, June 10th, and that will be noticed as a special meeting just to address those items. I would just say my 2 cents is I would appreciate that because I'm just getting over a bad cold, and so I would appreciate if we could do that.
I'd like to go till 1 a.m. in the morning. My own voice.
For clarification, do we have something happening on the 18th as well? So that would be the 17th and the 18th?
We have a council meeting on the 17th, and that has another full agenda, and part of that full agenda on the 17th is adopting the budget. And so you guys need to look at the draft budget, give us direction on the general fund budget, so then we can bring the full budget to you on the 17th.
Are we moving this meeting to the 17th?
No,
Okay.
the 10th.
The 10th, okay, got it. And then we're meeting the 17th, and then we're meeting the 18th?
No, we're not meeting the 18th. I understand that I've been asking you guys for a workshop for the homeless, plan. I still haven't gotten agreement on dates from everybody yet, so that's still at abeyance until I can get agreement.
Okay.
And I may lead back with Mr. Bates, who is the lead staff. We may look at, a future meeting in July that is fairly light, that we can just kind of do the workshop there.
I agree. I'm down from moving it to next Tuesday. City manager, and lieutenant, any possibility we can get a presentation on cops next Tuesday?
We can work on that. The answer is yes, Mr. Fayai, we will be able to get that done.
All right.
I will go over his head to his captain. We'll make sure it happens.
Thank you.
So I'll move that we have a special meeting, where we continue these 3 agenda items, which will include also a presentation on the COPS program, to Tuesday, June 10th, 2025. Can I get a second?
I second.
And, is that 6 p.m.? And it's starting at 6 p.m. Thank you. We'll go ahead and call the vote. City Manager, you want to call the roll?
Yes. There's been a motion and a second to continue this meeting to a special meeting on June 10th at 6 p.m. I will now take the roll call. Councilmember Alvarado.
Aye.
Councilmember Fayad.
Aye.
Councilmember Heredia.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza. Aye. Mayor Snow.
Aye. We will also go ahead and continue at that same time, the reports out to council on meetings that you've attended. And with that, this concludes the meetings for today. The next special meeting we will have will be at 6 p.m. on June 10th at 2025. And then we will have our next regularly scheduled meeting on Tuesday, June 17th, 2025 at 6 p.m. This concludes our meeting. We're now adjourned.
Thank you, Bruno.
Without the police, or is not the, there's a lot of, you seem tired. Oh, and, oh, yeah. I tell you, some shows could ruin my. Yeah, it would be great.